You know, this might come as a surprise to many of you. I didn't prepare a speech. But that's not because I didn't care. In fact, it's because I cared so much. If you could imagine sitting down and trying to write something about someone that you feel so much about, the way I feel about John, it's very difficult. I won this prize 2 years ago, and I'm imagining, John, that this is a surreal experience. I imagine you probably didn't even give a till last night. And then last night, you saw all your friends gathering, you saw everyone dressed nice, and you realized he was still alive to see this. It's like getting a preview to your funeral. In our line of work, context is everything. And me and John have a very unlikely friendship. The context of that friendship happened in a comedy club in New York City. John being 10 years my senior. I was 17. The first time I saw Jon Stewart, right before he walked in the door, I heard two waitresses at the club talking about how handsome he was. And then they go, oh my God, there he goes. And I looked over and I said, hey, he's all right.
So what happened was at night, I would go to the Comedy Cellar and they'd put me on as the last guy every night.
There's 6 billion people in the world. You can't make 6 billion anything without some of them being very up. Open up a bag of potato chips. What are there, 40 in there? At least 5 of them are burnt and bent over. And
it's the slot that they give someone that for some reason they think, let's just see what happens to this guy.
The thing I remember, being 17 in an adult world trying to make something of myself, is how kind he was. People like John made me feel safer. He's a friendly guy. Now, the early part of any comedian's career is embarrassing in hindsight because so many of us imitate our influences or try on different personalities to see what works. But John he's been the same since the very first time I met him, nice and present. In 1999, he got The Daily Show. That show languished for 3 years before he got it. No disrespect to Craig Kilburn, but you know what I mean? Yuck. It was like the body of the show was there, but when John got the show, it had a soul. It made people take notice. And in 2002, suddenly, somehow, he became the most popular news show on television. Actually, I know how. He had a good lead-in, Chappelle Show. And in that context, it was post 9/11. My career was the first time that I can really remember that there was a stove too hot to touch. No comedian was allowed to talk about the war or Janet Jackson's titty coming out the Super Bowl. You remember that? You remember that memo that went around? As we've all learned in our lives, wartime is crazy in America. They do what Noam Chomsky called manufacture consent, and the news was off the chain. And John was the only voice that helped people decipher that madness. It was a really remarkable thing to watch.
We told you that it wasn't going to go so well. Yes, we called it shock and awe, but we meant that in the way of you'll be shocked at how it doesn't go so well. And that will make you say, oh.
He's been a great friend to me. I'm not here because I love Jon Stewart. I'm here because he loves me. Because there's never been a time that I called on him and asked him for his help that he wasn't the first responder. When it was half-baked and I was doing my first movie and I needed a celebrity lift, John was the first one to say, I'll do it. I don't even know if you smoke weed. You seem like a coke guy. The city close to where I live, Dayton, Ohio, had a terrible mass shooting. 9 people were killed, and I called my friends, and they all pulled up. But John, you were the first one that said, oh, I'll be there. And just days after that massacre, we took that neighborhood and made a much better memory for them. They saw love and support from voices that they trust. When we were on Comedy Central, I picked the brand of irreverence. I said, I'll touch everything they say I can't touch. But John's voice became one that was synonymous with trust. And he left right before the Trump administration, the most cynical time in American politics. A time when nobody trusts our media, where a guy like Donald Trump can just say fake news and he say, I just believe this orange-head guy.
I would say the Trump presidential era back in from 2017 to 2020, um, it wasn't easy. It was pretty interesting, and Trump kept people on their feet all the time. Like people were watching the news like crazy. I remember Fox News and CNN, their rating went so up. As Joe Biden won in 2020, people slowly never started watching news anymore. People were saying that Joe Biden is boring and here and there. And they always say this statement where you don't miss what you have until that thing is gone. So as Trump left office in 2020 and Biden took over, and we started hearing about the issues in Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East. A lot of Americans were like saying, "Hey, during Trump's time, things were much better, though." So a lot of Americans were saying that during Trump's time, things were much better. Like, and they're like, "Oh man, we wish you had Trump." But the funny thing is, Trump can come back as president, right? And people will be like, "Oh, sure, we wish you had Biden." So people always complain, irrespective of what. Irrespective of what, people will always complain. I think the thing is, we should learn how to find a common ground, right, with somebody. We know that we'll never have a president that is perfect, but have a president that wants to see the nation grow, wants to see the nation improve, wants to see the nation move ahead. I think is the most important thing. We're in 2024 elections now, and we don't know if it will be Trump that win or if it will be Kamala Harris. But at the end of the day, patriotic, wants to see the nation move forward, puts the nation first. It's something that is very, very important. Also, foster peace and peace in the world. We have a lot of ongoing wars happening. So, peace in the world will be something that we really want to see. All right, let's continue listening to what Dave Chappelle is saying still about Trump too. I think so. Watch.
And we miss you very much. During the pandemic, when my town was dying and I needed to help raise money to get the economy of the town straight, John was the first responder. He was terrified of COVID, and he got on a plane anyway after his friends had died, and he lost loved ones. He had the courage to get on a plane. He came out and met me, and we did shows that whole weekend. And every comic who came out there had been off for at least 100 nights. They were all nervous, and they were all scared, except for John. John did 25 minutes off the rip because he had something to say, because he actually means what he says, because he actually thinks about what he says. A lot of comics will take this genre for granted. The younger comics, they do what I call wokes. They're not jokes. They don't know the difference between a good point and a good joke. John is very true to the muse. He takes a good point and he makes a good joke of it. John is a miracle to watch you work. You are a cure to what ails our culture. You are a voice that people consistently trust. I wish that you'd run for president. But I imagine that would be hard for a Coke guy to do. When you started your career, you never imagined that you would reach a point like this. And the Mark Twain Prize might feel like a finish line or an end to a movie. It is not. It is a starter gun. You were still young. You were still strong. You were still funny. And I do not have the words to say in front of these people how much I love you and how much I respect you. But just know, whenever you call on me, I will come, because you have been one of the greatest friends that I've made in 35 years. Congratulations. I'm honored that you got this award. I'm sorry I got it before you, but I'm your lucky lead-in. Jon Stewart, ladies and gentlemen.
One thing I really admire and like about Dave Chappelle is he knows how to celebrate people in that time. He doesn't wait for people to pass on before celebrating them, and which is something very, very important. It's always good to celebrate people while they're alive and not wait for them to die before you start celebrating them. You know, it's something that I really admire about Dave Chappelle. Whenever he's doing openings, especially for paying tribute and all not like that, he does it so well. He knows how to celebrate people in their time when they're alive, giving them the credit that they deserve. Giving them the flowers that they deserve when they're alive and not when they die. So it's something that is great. And Jon Stewart is awesome. I think he came back again. He's now running the Daily Show. So Trevor Noah, I think he retired from the Daily Show and was doing his thing. So it's always good to celebrate people when they're alive, give them the admiration, the respect that they need, that they deserve when they're alive, and don't wait for them to pass on before you start celebrating them or saying good things about them. I think that is my 2 cents there. But Jon Stewart is awesome. It's nice to celebrate people, especially when they're alive. It's nice to celebrate people, especially when they're alive and not waiting for them to pass on before you celebrate them. And it's something that Dave Chappelle does, and he does it very, very well, which I greatly admire and respect seeing him do.